You mentioned before that people should start with what they are good at. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, so a lot of people come to me and ask me about meditation these days, and they're like,
Mm,
what kind of meditation should I do?
mm,
And usually I start with a bunch of questions like, well, why do you want to meditate? So first I end up asking a bunch of questions about their motivation. What is it? Actually, I'm gonna take just a moment to talk about that, and then I'll talk about
yeah,
uh, like why are you doing this? Like some people, it is suffering that really motivates them. They're
yeah.
depressed, they're anxious, they're in pain, something is going wrong in their life, and they just want the suffering to stop. So that's compassion, right? And other people, they really just care about themselves and want to be happy. It's not their life is that bad, but they are happy, have whatever level of happiness, and they want to be happier because, of course, they do because they love themselves, hopefully. And then that's cool. And then some people do it just for the challenge, like, why did you climb that mountain? Because it was
Uh,
there. Like, I had some of that when I was learning this stuff, right? It was like a challenge to me. I was like, I'm going to climb that mountain.
yeah,
That was kind
hitting
of
the
a fun
eighth
one.
jhana.
Yeah, or something, exactly. So these
Yeah,
advanced meditative states I got interested in.
yeah.
And some people really want to do it just to know. They're just super curious. Like, oh, wow, I just really want to know what's possible. I really want to understand the answers to life. I want to know what's going on. I want to know who I am and what's the cool thing to do. Yeah, some people just find it fascinating. Like, oh, isn't this a cool thing? Right? Oh, this is just so neat. Like, oh my golly, it's like a cool toy I can play with. And so there's a lot of different motivating reasons that we might do this. And often we have a bunch of them, and they may change moment to moment depending on our circumstances. Right. So just recognize there's a lot of what we call roads to power is the sort of formal word for this in Buddhism, but it's motivating factors and reasons that we do this. But then once we decide, okay, we're going to do this, what do we do? And for most people, particularly if you're a beginner, I think it's really important to have some early wins. Because if you sit down and
Mm,
you try a meditation style that's not very well built for you and it doesn't work for you, then you might just go, oh, meditation doesn't work. Oh, these people are talking, oh, this just isn't for me. So I think then the next question I usually have with people is, what are you good at?
mm,
Right. And part of that conversation is, what's your primary sense door? Are you more of
mm,
like a physical person where it's really easy for you to be in your body? These are often people who are very athletic or like good at dancing or good at something like that. Maybe they play an instrument. Maybe they've got some physical talent. They play a sport. They've got some kind of like they're naturally somatic people. They're naturally in the body. And then usually I recommend some kind of meditation that's built for that. Could be the breath, but it could be something like Tai Chi, or it might even be really
mm,
mindful or present yoga or something along those lines, because it'll play to their natural strengths and something they kind of do anyway and something they're already good at. So it's much more likely to be fun. And then you have people who are really visual. They're just super visual people. That's what's exciting for them is the visual world. If you're the kind of person who wants to watch a podcast more than you listen to a podcast, maybe that's you. And then,
mm,
so for them, there are actually a bunch of different visualization meditations or even visual objects that you can use for meditation. That's a whole nother topic. So I then play to those kinds of strengths and traditions. And then some people, they're very auditory. And there's like mantra meditations, there's listening to people, there's like guided meditations where a person's telling you how to meditate, maybe with your eyes closed. And then it might be something about beautiful about their voice or the music that is in the background or something like that, or just being in nature and listening to a waterfall or something. There might be some meditation related to sound that's really cool. And some people are just really intellectual, and you may think, oh, they're going to be in trouble. But there's actually a lot of really cool contemplations that can actually bring people into the other sense doors. Like, what does it feel like to feel? That's an interesting question. Who are you? That's an interesting question. Where is the observer? What are the sensations of the observer? What does it feel like to want something? Why are you doing this? Like, ask that again and again. So, like Zen koan training is one example, or some of the Christian contemplative uh, questions. There's a bunch of different intellectual traditions that use actually the power of thought and the mind and reflection to actually get people into deeper states. And then there's some people who are kind of spacey. They're kind of spacious. It's not like they have a primary sense modality. They have sort of a primary quality of spaciousness of mind. And people like this maybe just tune into the space in the room, tune into the sky, tune into a wide, go up in a high, place and look out at a great view and just take that as your meditation. That can be really helpful. And then you've got people who are like really sharp and laser focused, and their attention is just so quick and so they can really take things apart. I was kind of like that. So I had
Mm.
a really fast mind, a really sharp mind that could notice like 20 to 40 individual sensations arising and vanishing each second. It's just, it's just one of the many, inclinations people might have. And so I gravitated towards a meditation tradition of really fast investigation, noticing all the little blips and sputters and flickers of sensate experience. That was really rewarding for me. And some people are really desirous types. They just love pleasure. Right. So like they just like things that feel good. So meditations that focus on feeling good are things that feel good. If you're watching this happiness uh, related podcast, maybe you're one of those. Maybe you're what we call a desirous type, not in a bad way, but just that's your inclination. Whereas, and so meditations that really cultivate positive feelings are more likely to work for them because they're probably going to be good at it. That's what their mind naturally does. And then you've got people who are kind of aversive, like me. Like pleasure actually doesn't hold my mind that well. Strangely enough, I had to figure out how, for some of the jhanic stuff I wanted to do, I had to figure out how to get interested in really sustaining, blissful, peaceful stuff. But it wasn't my natural inclination at all. But I could take things apart, like, and I could detune from things because I'm something called an aversive type. So an aversive type, I like don't care. It was more interesting for me to tear things to shreds than it was to appreciate them. So, and that was just what my mind liked to do. And so it's like, okay, we'll just do that. And it turns out that's also a very skillful way to meditate, if you can counterbalance some of the downsides of it. And each of these ways of meditating has its pros and cons. But each of them, if you play to your initial strengths, will likely get you into some door of something cool that you're like, okay, I can see that I'm using my natural strengths. I'm able to do something interesting. And then be able to take it from there and go, okay, yeah, this is something I can work with. This is something I can do. Rather than like if I had tried initially to just turn into bliss or peace or something like that, I would have been awful at it. It just wasn't what my brain was built to do. And other people, if they just try to tear reality to little meaningless shreds of particles, like they would have been awful at that. That's not what the brain is designed to do. Both of those or all of those are okay. So working with your natural attentional shape and your natural kind of speed of mind and your natural sense store and your natural inclinations and strengths, I think is really important for beginners. Because if you just think, oh, this is the right kind of meditation, but it's not playing to any of your strengths, maybe you just won't be that good at it for too long and then you'll just give up. Whereas if you can find a meditation or a technique or a practice or something that really plays to what you're good at, like some people are really good at like feeling, knowing their feelings, and maybe like loving kindness practice is good for you, right? If you really like to feel something, um, so those kinds of things. Or like some people really need to do some psychology, like where their mind at and what's going on with them is learning basic stuff about like their attachment style in another way, or some CBT or some
Mm.
internal family systems, or I don't know, pick your favorite. Freudian. Actually, Freud was somewhat crazy, but not totally crazy, like looking into, neuroses or something. There's lots of cool ways. Or actually transactional analysis, which has kind of been forgotten and should be remembered because it was cool tech. So like finding some cool psychology technologies, maybe that's what's going to work for you today. And that's where you are in your practice. And that's your strength right now. And that's what's meaningful to you. So I think rather than thinking, oh, I have to do this particular type or style, no, look at what's important to you right now, what your goals are, what your sense store is, what your attention style is, and what's calling to you right now, because that's much more likely to work. So and then you'll find much more good results and more happiness and satisfaction with your practice.
Wow. This is gold, Dan. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate everything you just said. I think this should be played in Times Square 24/7. It's so important. Oh my God. I'm just so happy. Just one quick thing though. So I also heard about like timeline theory and attachment theory. Those fall into the psychology thing you mentioned, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
sure.
just so many of these things can be helpful
Mhm.
for different people.
And at different times and different
Oh,
phases of practice, right? So it may
yeah,
be that something is really good for a while, and then it's always time to do something else. So also, if you
yeah,
find something that really works for you, but then you kind of get stuck in it and it's not doing something else, finally, like, okay, what's the next thing? Where is the next thing I
yeah.
need to do? Or how do I counterbalance that? Or how do I find something that then does something else? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I feel there's always like one size fits all. When someone is famous, they say something, people all are trying that particular thing. This is why I didn't reveal your identity in the beginning. Just listen to it as it is. Like, look at how much he can offer, although you are famous. But I'm trying to make a point. I try. So
Well,
this is sorry, go ahead.
I'm also just repeating a lot of stuff people taught me. So right, like this isn't new to me, right? This isn't
Yeah,
my stuff. This is my teachers taught me and their teachers taught them and people thousands of years ago figured out a lot of the stuff and
yeah.
they worked really hard to preserve it for us today. So I'm really just conveying stuff that people were kind enough to show me when I really didn't know it and I really needed it to be shown to me. And so I'm just paying it forward in that same spirit of open giving, open teaching with an open hand. And, you know, I got to make a lot of mistakes. I got to screw up. I got to be confused. I got to, have a lot of doubts. But then it's like, oh, okay. No, these people are onto something. Cool. Thank you. Good people who taught me.
Yeah, thank you so much. That is such a treasure because that's not the mainstream teaching. That's also what I really want people to hear. That's the whole point of the happiness buffet, right? So yeah, I so appreciate my researcher mind just kicks in. I wonder has anyone tried to build a LLM to recommend what's a better way for a particular type of people so that they know where to start. Just exactly as what you were mentioning, but I saw your website, your emails are 6 months behind. So
Oh my, it's
I'm
ridiculous
sure
sometimes.
yeah, people
Yeah.
it's hard to get a hold of. That's why listeners, you are really lucky, and I'm so lucky to have Daniel here. I'm just so happy. But
Well, and
is there, sorry,
again,
go.
just all sharing wisdom together, right? You have a lot of wisdom to share. So I'm very grateful for you amplifying these things and creating the time to create this podcast. So useful.
So is there a LLM or something? Has anyone asked you about it? To just,
There are actually a bunch of different LLMs. So you can go to, I think there's one AI Guru and there's one
oh,
Compassion
okay.
Bot. And so if you look at like Rick Archer has come up with one through his Buddha at the gas pump where he took like the teachings of like I don't know, like 800 people, however many people he's interviewed over the long time he's
Oh,
been doing this and all of their materials. And there's a number of AIs. And actually, weirdly enough, if you ask the right questions, Claude and ChatGPT or whatever, like they're DeepSeek, they're not bad. They're not bad. And
oh,
if so, you just have to prompt them in a good way that sort of lets you know what you're looking for because they actually know more stuff than any meditation teacher possibly could. So you
mm,
kind of just have to ask them, right? I don't know that we necessarily need new bots. You just need to
I
say,
see.
hey, you just need to know what to ask them because they
Mm,
know all the texts, they know all the teachings, they know everybody's online, everything. They're
that's true.
remarkable right now. And so just pick any of them and start asking it questions. Now, as we know, they can occasionally do some very strange things. So you have to be careful. And they can occasionally get people to go into some very strange places. So you have to keep your wits about you. There's still flawed things like everything in this strange world, but they also know an amazing amount. And so just ask them, how do we figure out a good meditation for me? How do I figure out something that works well with what I'm going through now? What are the options? Who are the cool and ethical teachers? How can you, yeah, what teaching seems appropriate at this moment for this sort of a problem?
Mm,
What can I expect? And what are the other things that might help counterbalance the shadow sides? Because every technique, if you do it, it's got something about it that's gonna like could potentially cause a little problem. So there's no perfect techniques. There's no perfect
mm,
teachers. And so just recognizing that at some point you might have to check in and go, hey, how do I counterbalance this thing that's happening from this?
That's great. A shameless plug. You know, me and my collaborators are actually working on contemplative AI and wise AI, so that it's not
Awesome.
that strange. But
Great.
that's not the takeaway. The takeaway is if people are trying some meditation that's not working, before giving up and thinking meditation isn't for you, maybe just ask a bot, and then you will find. And actually, you give very good framework on what to ask. So, right,
Yeah.
if I'm more tuned to feelings or desire driven or whatever, and which sense door is more prevalent, yeah, that's a great way for people to start.
And
Cool.
what's the motivating factor? Like, why are you meditating? Like, tell
Yeah.
it, this is why I'm meditating. And maybe have it ask you. The other thing is, there's usually two or three, there's benefit from asking, okay, why do you want that? Okay, why do you want that? Okay, why do you want that? So, like, a lot of people will come to me and say stuff like, oh, I found your book and I really want to awaken. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And I'm like, why do you want to awaken? And they say, because I want to suffer less and be wise and compassionate more. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And why do you want to suffer less and be compassionate more? And they're like, oh, well, so I know how to say the right thing, to people when I'm talking with them. I'm like, okay, why do you want to say the right thing? And then they'll say something like, so my girlfriend will like me better and we'll get along. And I'm like, okay, well, actually, like, maybe you need some empathetic listening skills, and maybe you need to learn how to just slow down, or some other tricks for active communication and better communication with your girlfriend or partner or whatever. Like, maybe that's actually like something you should incorporate. And had I not asked, like, why do you want that? Why do you want that? Why
Mm,
do you want that? Why do you want that? I would not know what was actually going on with them. So maybe
mm,
ask the chat GPT to ask you good questions of why do you want something, and answer
yeah.
honestly, and then answer honestly, and then see where that goes, because that's tracking back desire. What do you want? And tracking back desire to the feeling of desire, to the root desires, to the core things, well, is often a very good way to go, because we look out there, right? We're looking out there for a bot or a meditation or a teacher or a book or a course or a community, and that's cool. I totally get that, but make sure that it's balanced with the looking within. What's
Yeah.
driving it? Who's driving it? What does that feel like? What's really going on this side? What do we really want? And be honest, because honesty, because if you're not, like, eventually you're going to have to be honest. Might as well just start with that if you possibly
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.